abuse me all you want. I mean, that's just 15 years of just being an online personality. You know, remember, I'm a guy that had a felon going to shoot me at the Boston Major because I think I said something about a team he didn't like. I can't remember what his motivation was, actually. I always get it mixed up. I can't remember if it was over the iBuyPower stuff or something else. You know, so I've lived having to have bodyguards because I talk about video games. So, I mean, you know, I'm very, you know, like, telling me to kill myself online, or, you know, calling me a fat drunk, or whatever however you want to spend your time, man. You know, you wake up, you go to your Burger King job, you're the miserable one. You know, have it. If you need the power fantasy, like, just do it. Just have it. You're welcome to it. But what I cannot sort of abide is that, you know, the fact that Train's audience were very quick to sort of mock Maria's death and try and use that as a shank in my ribs. And there was a lot of comments like that. And anybody that sort of engages in that practice is a piece of shit. And if you belong on my community, that guy that we just banned there that was saying it was justified, you know, he's a subscriber. I don't want your money. In fact, hunt me down and I'll give you your money back. I don't want it dirtying my soul because you're a piece of shit. You're a piece of shit, right? You really have to understand that. Like, you know, whatever you want to say about me being a bad guy, like, I'm clearly empathetic. I clearly have emotions. You're some fucking absolute dreg that is just slithering across the internet, desperately trying to find something. And what you should do is you should get off the internet and go out into the big wide world and live a little, have a bit of a life, you know, connect with some people. Not just virtual avatars and streamers or whatever it is you do. And then let me know how you feel if you ever have those, you know, moments cruelly snatched away from you. Tell me how you feel then, and let me know if it's objectively okay if I come and tell you, but you are a piece of shit, so you deserve it. Hey, it's kind of warranted. Remember that time you came into my Twitch chat? Because I'll be there. And then let me know how you feel about it. But anyway, let's So let's just talk. Let's get the first part out of the way. And the first part is that when I went on Train's stream, you know, I was on this stream before here, and kind of what maybe wasn't apparent is that, you know, this was like, you know, I've been on something like a 5-day bender or something, pills and booze, because, you know, I'm having a lot of trouble sleeping because of the PTSD and the kind of nightmares and stuff. And, you know, I was like, you know, I've been putting away at least half a bottle of whiskey before, you know, kind of, well, you know, before 2 every day, you know. So I've been pretty fucked up. You know, there's no getting away from that. I'd gone 2 weeks sober and it was unbearable, but I wanted to sort of do it. And then I was like, right, well, fuck it. End of the month now, time to get back on it and, you know, get some sleep, get some rest. So, you know, I've been given pills and you know, to try and help, you know, fucking sleep and stuff. And so I'm taking also, you know, I'm taking that, I'm drinking. I got a pretty high tolerance to booze. I got a pretty high tolerance to fucking downers. So, you know, it's been kind of fucked up. And I think you can see already, I've had like, what, 2-3 days straight now? I mean, you can see I'm not like red-faced or bloated at the moment. I mean, I'm fat still, you know, can't work fucking miracles. But you can probably see the difference in how I look compared to how I looked on that stream and on that podcast. You know, so I went on the show. I shouldn't have done, you know, like, hands down, definitely shouldn't have gone. I don't enjoy the show. I made that abundantly clear. I don't renounce or retract anything I said during the podcast. I want to make that absolutely clear as well. Those were my opinions, the ones that I can remember anyway. I don't remember saying anything that was like deliberately provocative and something I didn't think and something I wouldn't have said stone cold sober, although maybe I could articulate it better. But what I do regret, what I do regret is being rude to people because I don't like it. And I've criticized people in the past for going on podcasts and making it all about them and having little like histrionic outbursts and tantrums. You know, I've criticized people for doing it on Raj. I've criticized people for doing it on the Trainwrecks podcast. I've criticized people for doing it on shows going way back, like Unfiltered and stuff. And, you know, I'm embarrassed to have engaged in the same sort of pathetic behavior, even though I kind of wasn't myself. You know, no excuses. I won't hide behind my own choices. So, you know, I'm especially mortified for someone like Critical, who I like his content and have a lot of respect for, and he's a big YouTuber, and it was a big opportunity for Train to have that audience discover his content, and I fucked it up for Train, and I'm sure Critical didn't have a good time. And you know, that's inexcusable. That's inexcusable. I'd like to reach out to Critical and apologize directly. I don't know him, so I haven't had the opportunity, but everyone that I do know on the show, I've apologized to privately. And also apologized in public, because I am someone that owns my shit. But let's also just sort of tell the truth a little bit. You know, I told Train at the time, like, I'm not going to be on the show for a while because of Maria's death, and I need to work in an environment I control at a pace I control, because, you know, it's a struggle. But you'll notice I didn't take any time off. You know, I was back in the saddle, right? Because I'm the type of guy, and everybody can tell you this, that feels a great sense of obligation. I even said this on By the Numbers, the first By the Numbers I did after it happened. I you know, make it absolutely clear that like, obligation is a big driver for me. It's a big motivating factor. So I didn't want to let down patrons from the Patreon and not do shows. I didn't want to let down long-time viewers and long-time subscribers, or any viewers or any subscribers that like our content, especially the CSGO community, which I'm an endemic member of and have been for 2 decades, and wanted to, you know, I'm not going to let those people down by not doing a show that I know they like and they value. So I have stuck religiously to the BTN, you know, for a month minimum. In fact, I did extra. I think we had 6 in 1 month, if you remember. That was because I wanted to work extra hard for the people that I know care about me and care about my content. Now, listen, there's a lot that behind the scenes that people probably aren't aware of with Train, and, you know, it's definitely been simmering under the surface, and it was never important enough for me to get upset about, but clearly it was in the back of my mind while I was agitated. And basically, you know, it's like, I didn't want, you know, I don't like going on the show, and I especially don't like it now. I like it now less than I ever did. I'll be absolutely clear, because I don't like being a hypocrite. I went on that show for clout, for attention, to try and get some of his audience, before I truly understood what his audience was, into my audience. It was for attention, it was for clicks, it was, you know, a lot of friends and colleagues in the industry told me, you know, if you go on Train's audience and you have like some straight fire podcast performances, you'll blow up. You know, that was the first reason I went on, you know, in 2019. And a lot of people like Slasher, you know, Slasher like was nowhere in terms of influence in esports for a while because of the problems he had, which again, I've said many times, I'm ashamed I stuck the boot in when he was at his lowest ebb. And Slasher's been a good friend to me in my time of need. And he was one of the guys that was like pushing me to go on the show and saying, just tolerate it, just put up with it. You know, it'll help blow you up. It'll help get your work out there. Any esports fans that like Train stuff are going to like your stuff. So, you know, I was kind of putting, you know, I was doing it for that and only for that. Not because I like the show, not because I like the format. Certainly, as I discovered over time, not because I like Train's audience, which, as you saw from the comments I put on the screen, a very small scattering of which have been unbelievable. I mean, I've had lots of, you know, kind of hateful comments from fan bases down the years. These are right up there. You know, these are probably some of the worst. And again, I don't mind the ones aimed at me. The ones aimed at Maria, I think, are unforgivable. And so anyway, so, you know, Train asked me kind of week after week after week after week to keep coming on the show, even though I, you know, and never once in between checked in to see how I was doing. Never once said, do you want to, how are you? Do you feel up to coming on the show? It was just come on the show. And I felt like maybe I was letting him down. You have to understand as well, there's a reason he's asking me on the show every week, and it's got nothing to do with like friendship, and it's got nothing to do with us having like a strong or profound connection, and it's got everything to do with the fact that I'm a good talker and I am very well informed about a broad range of topics, and therefore this is going to sound arrogant as fuck, but it's just the truth, and therefore when you throw me on a podcast environment where we talk about a lot of variety of different things, I usually know about it, I usually have an opinion, because it's not because I'm like a fucking know-it-all. It's just because I do a podcast about the news, so I follow things in the news, and I'm opinionated, and I don't mind expressing my opinion, even if I know it's going to be deeply unpopular, because I just don't care about that. So I get invited on a lot. I've been doing podcasts since 2010. I've been doing it for 10 years, and obviously it's something that I'm decent at, right? So, everybody remembers Unfiltered, fondly. Not so many people remember climbing the ladder before that. It was straight fire. People like BTN, people like the first wave of BTN. People were landed when we brought BTN back. So, I get invited on that show because I am that guy. And you need that guy, especially on a podcast where, one of its greatest faults is that for long periods of time, people don't bring anything to the table. They don't want to talk. They just want to have their name on a screen so people might come along and follow them. They don't realize the sort of the idea that you're supposed to seize the opportunity of the platform you've got. What I quickly realized as well was like, Train valued my input way more than his audience did. His audience absolutely despised me and loathed me being on there. And, I've even timed it. I've sat there and timed it and I've gone through and looked at like, did I really talk that much? Did I, was I really talking over people? And it's not true. And, I might have talked less than a regular, talked less than the host even, talked less than many guests, but just because of the brash manner in which I express my opinion for the purposes of entertainment, they will always say he's talking too much. So even when you sort of numerically break it down, it was like even on that podcast I was fucking wasted on, 5 days wasted or whatever it was. I sat there for 30 minutes without saying anything, and then as soon as I opened my mouth again, it was just kill yourself and whatnot in the chat. So that's just, so in many ways, I think Train should have probably identified his community doesn't really value my input and probably should have stopped asking me to come on. But, there was this thing where it's like, you gotta realize, guys, a lot of people, were messaging me going, how can you shit on your friends like that? These are not my friends. These are not my friends, and it should be abundantly clear to everyone that watched that podcast, these are not my friends, because the best thing to do would have, told me to leave, just said, there was like zero empathy into what I might be going through, and also, yeah, they know about it. I told Train pretty much the like 2 days after it happened or something. Maybe a week after it happened. I can't remember. It was pretty soon after. It was a fucked up time. So if my timeline's incorrect and he feels the need to delve into the DMs again when someone clips him this, apologies if it's, not within the time frame I thought it was. It was a difficult time. But I remember it being relatively soon afterwards because he wanted me on the show again. I just said, I'm not up to it. And then Devin pretended that, he didn't know about it. And that's impossible because Devin worked in LCS. He knew who Maria was. So, and the fact that they both snapped and immediately resorted to sticking the boot in and kind of saying like, oh, you're nobody anyway, and you've got no viewers. And it's like, listen, I don't mind. Give as good as you get. But they were very much interested in having a drama stream and not anything else really. When Devin turned around and sort of said, I'll pray for you, the reality about that statement is, because, he's not a deeply devout religious man, the reality about that statement is, he has a tendency to get very passive aggressive with anyone that like disagrees with him. He's done it with me before. He did it with me over the gaming addiction thing, because just coincidentally, when I said I thought gaming addiction was bullshit, he'd scheduled having that Dr. K, who I'm a bit sus about, if I'm honest with you, on his stream. So when he said, I'll pray for you, what he was doing there in a very contrived and sort of, way was trying to make it look like he was taking the moral high road while simultaneously trying to goad me and say that I was kind of like pathetic and irredeemable. None of these people have my interests at heart, honestly. And they should have asked me to get off the show. I think it should be abundantly clear off the back of that these people aren't pals. You know, you don't have pals, by the way. When you start getting into high-level influencers and high-level viewership and Twitch people, you know, I remember Hassan being very depressed when he found that out, you know, when he realized that people were going to have, like, differences with him over, you know, things that probably didn't really warrant anybody getting, like, mega upset, and that he thought, you know, he didn't realize that relationships he was in were going to be secondary to the all-important viewership, money, all of that bullshit. And I could have told him that. But obviously, he thinks I'm a fucking Trump supporter, so he was never going to talk to me. But, you know, I've been in that world. I've been in the TV world. I know what it's like. And I know about the phonies and the fakes and, you know, the people that are your pals and when they want a favor and then they fucking turn on you when you can't deliver or don't deliver for whatever reason. You know, so these people... You know, these people are not friends, you know, like you get used essentially for content. You know, there was another thing that, like, just to sort of put it out there as to why Train first started even having me on the podcast was because he did a political show. He did a political debate where it was between Nick Fuentes and Sargon of Akkad and Destiny and Hassan. And, you know, he reached out to me. We talked, like, briefly a few times. I think we were vaguely aware of him. And, he reached out to me and said, could I, like, essentially script a debate? And I was like, yeah, I'm happy to do it for you, brother. Don't worry about it. And, anyway, so I, like, put a bit of work into that, you know, topics that were you know, and did a document and kind of explain. And what I wanted to have different was to have the format, because the reason debates on YouTube and Twitch are garbage is it's two morons shouting at each other, absolutely utterly convinced of their opinion regardless of any presentation of fact. There's never a moderator, and then after the shouting match stops, each other's audience tells them in their little echo chambers, that cult of personality I'm talking about, that they won, and they become utterly convinced that they won. And so it's a waste of time. I mean, it is just like, when they called it internet blood sports, whoever come up with that phrase was completely accurate. It's Jeremy Kyle. It's not a fucking political debate. I remember people getting very upset when I pointed that out. But a debate, as I understand it, was always like people having ideas that they had to present in a controlled, usually timed manner with a moderator that made sure nobody got off track, nobody didn't. So I told Train that is absolutely essential to have that, and he agreed. And so we talked about format and how it was going to work. Now, I also said to him, I said, Train, you got to be careful, because that Nick Fuentes, he is a legit racist. He is a legit anti-Semite, and he's going to be deplatformed probably across everything very soon. And I would hate for you to get blowback on that. Maybe you should get somebody else. But he decided not to, and he wanted to go with that. So anyway, we did it. We did it all. And then I was watching it live, and I had Train's number on my cell phone. I think I texted him a few times while it was going on. And it was very clear the debate was going to devolve into the shit show that all debates do. And, you know, for example, they're talking about the trans military ban, and suddenly Nick Fuentes is talking about women in the military. Well, it's like, listen, let's talk specifically about the issue. But it was getting deviated. People were running over time. There wasn't any control, and that's when Asmongold came in and moderated it, and everyone said he did a good job. But I offered to come in and moderate it, and Train said, "No, you can't be involved. You'll be biased against Destiny and Hassan." And it's like, I mean, I told him not to put Nick Fuentes on the show, and I think I've criticized Sargon probably more than anyone else on the show. So he was clear he didn't want me involved for whatever reason. I think it's because I didn't have brand power, right? Because I'm not a big streamer. So anyway, you know, that was always at the back of my mind. But he started having me on the podcast shortly after. But it's like I say, you know, when you go through tough times, you find out who actually gives a shit. Because, you know, let me just give you some examples. Now, I'm not comparing Train to any of these people. It would be really unfair. But almost everybody in CS, everyone I work with, you know, Dust, who's in the chat now, texting me on Discord, checking in on me every week. Vince checking in on me every week. Anders checking in on me every week. Moses and Henry offered to come and stay at my house to make sure I was okay. Thorin checking on me, supposedly unempathetic Thorin. Sam flew out to stay in Vegas for 3 months, and even further afield, like people that I don't even have that kind of connection with. There was people who really surprised me in the esports space. Rachel Quirico sent me home-baked cookies and food and a comfort blanket. And listen, hang on, actually. Wait there. She sent me, sorry, you probably got a glimpse of my ass there. Said, for someone who puts up with so much shit, you have a remarkable capacity to love, protect, and support others. Not everyone gets to see your kindness, and that's a shame, but I'm lucky to know you and to get some of it myself. You are a gem and a treasure. I'm sorry life didn't give Marie all the happiness she deserved. I hope you can keep on and find happiness in your life. Love to both, Rachel. So I didn't expect that. I haven't talked to Rachel in a while. And I have, Christina Alejandre from E-League, haven't worked with her in years. These are the people that reached out and made a point of looking after me. I'm missing out loads of others, like really surprising names across the esports industry. DJ Wheat, who, we used to be like, enemies, wrecking each other. Every day, somebody in esports has just like messaged me to see if I'm okay at some level. Scoots is still trying to get me to go down to Arizona. The reason I'm not going to stay with these people, I see these people, is, when you're in a bad time, you get this intense shame. You get this intense shame. You don't want, because you're not yourself, so you don't want to be around people. Even and then it gets lonely because you're deliberately shutting yourself off, and it makes you feel worse. So that's where I've been. But not one person, by the way, apart from, here are the people that reached out from the Trainwrecks podcast and showed me sort of any kindness and decency during this time. Slasher, Esfand, who I don't even know. That's that. So, and again, think about that from Slasher. So every week I was just getting asked to go on, and because of this shame and pressure that you put on yourself, I was still going on the show. I shouldn't have done it. I wasn't having a good time. I wasn't myself. I could feel it slipping. I was getting more and more obnoxious with each episode, I think. I don't think this was like something that just immediately happened. If you remember the last time I was on the show before the disaster, I went on shit-faced drunk again, and I just happened to be funny that time. And Devin even said, and again, this is what I mean. Imagine saying this to somebody as well. You should come on drunk all the time. Literally, it's there. It's on air. It's recorded, and nobody picked up on that, and nobody cares about that. I'm just a bad guy because I'm human, and So when people want to talk about, I was like Richard Lewis was an asshole. Yeah, absolutely, abso-fucking-lutely. I shouldn't have gone on the show. I'm sorry very much so for wasting Trainwreck's time and effort. And as we know, that's really in a lot of ways Devin's time and effort. I'm really sorry for that. They put a lot of time in the show. They probably had, took a lot of effort to reach out to Critical. I don't know if he'll ever go back on the show again because of the experience I gave him. I've done that to somebody that ostensibly, did offer me a platform, for their own reasons. But regardless. But the way people are selling it, like it's some betrayal on my part, no. It is me being an obnoxious drunk asshole because I'm having a deeply troubling emotional time, and I am trying to work through it in my own way, mostly alone. And I'm not handling it very well at some times. But I still apologize. I still regret what I did. I still feel bad about it. I'd still make up for it if I could. I'd personally apologize to every one of the streamers. I especially remember being particularly rude to one of the girls that were on there. Like, no, that's not who I am, and I would do anything to take that back. But selling it that I went on there and sold out my friends, guys, you don't know, you haven't got a fucking clue. And also as well, when it was abundantly clear I was getting told to kill myself and everything else by train fans, the front page of the train subreddit, all abusive stuff, 5-6 live stream fail threads, not one person, right? So I mean, again, essentially that's co-signed by the people that run the podcast, because nobody said, oh, like, that's a bit much, leave that, so okay, guess I'm the bad guy. But also, one thing I do want to also add, an apology as well that I need to make, and I've made it privately, but I'll say it publicly because I saw a thread about it on Reddit as well. I made a joke about Destiny while I was on the podcast, and I fucked it up because I was so drunk, and I used the wrong words. So I said, is Destiny having sex with his mail-order bride? And sort of like, and said something like, that's what they're telling me or something. And what that joke was meant to be was that, LSF and Trainwreck's community and some of the other people had said that, Destiny's relationship was fake, and that it was like a green card marriage, and gold digging and all this like derisory stuff. And I was trying to make fun of them and not Steven, and certainly not his partner, but I fucked it up because I was wasted, and it doesn't even make sense to use the words mail order bride. I only hope people can realize that that's what I was trying to do, because I think people's families and loved ones should be off limits. As I said to Stephen, like when Alabrel said that stuff about his kid, I think everybody remembers how angry I got about that. So it wasn't meant, the way the joke came out wasn't what I meant, and I wasn't meant to be making fun of him or her. It was meant to be making fun of the morons that like literally know nothing about people's relationships and kind of intimate and make fun of things. So that was a fuck up. It's a shame really, because I got some good one-liners in earlier on in the show. I was still sharp enough for it, but the sleeping pills, it's very hard to kind of fight against them and kind of still be lucid and clear, especially after, I had a bottle of whiskey and like 10 bottles of beer or something that day. So I was, and I'd popped some barbs. So I was kind of fucked, but anyway, so I want people to know that, because I absolutely would never say anything like that about someone's partner. Again, that's not who I am. So I apologize for the way that came out and any, upset that might have caused. I don't know if Steven even saw it. He's on vacation at the moment. But I very quickly sent him a message to let him know that A, it happened, and B, I'm sorry that it happened, and C, it wasn't what I meant. If he still wants to be upset about it, he's well within his rights. It was a shit attempt at a joke that, fucked up and made me look like a cunt. So that's that. So anyway, that should sort of put a cherry on the top. I'm not gonna talk about it or address it again. I've apologized now 3 times on 3 different mediums, and I've told Train I won't be back on the show, and I apologized to Train for my performance on the show, and I tried to do some catharsis afterwards. I'm sober, I'm clean, I haven't touched anything for days. I'm drinking detox tea, like being, and just sat here. You have to understand though, and this because I'll just speak absolutely candidly. This is about bottoming out. I mean, people even said to me, Oh, that must be rock bottom for you. What, you think going on Trainwreck's podcast drunk, saying a bunch of crazy shit, having people call me an asshole is rock bottom, not finding my friend dead? Okay, good. You have a good perspective on life. You're not fucking, you're not over-invested in Twitch at all. But yeah, like, you have to understand, like, I don't know if I'm going to stay like this, or if I'm going to be able to maintain this, or if I'm, because I don't know how long it's going to take. Right now, my joy ceiling is I wake up today and I think, I don't kill myself today. That's as happy as I think I can ever be, ever again. And so imagine believing that. And then you have to, do this, do that, do podcasts. Like, like, understand if I do sort of go off the rails from time to time, when that is my mindset. And I can't, I don't want to worry anybody. It's not like some cry for help. I'm just trying to contextualize. That's when you go through something like this, that's where you exist. You wake up. The best time of the day is the first 5 to 10 seconds of opening your eyes, because you reboot everything in your brain and you forget about it temporarily. It's not there. It's like your personality comes online and all your memories sort of like the Matrix, and still me, still in this version of the universe, all that terrible shit still happened, cool. And then you get up and you go, right, well, it's inappropriate to start drinking now. I guess I'll have a cup of coffee. You have a cup of coffee. I've got work to do, probably should do that. Okay, cool, do that. Now what? And that's it. And you just sit there and go, yeah, you've still got some important stuff to attend to, I guess, so you can't just check out. You shouldn't probably do that, actually. It's not fair to everybody else. Okay, I guess I won't. And that's it. That's like literally coming to that arrival is as good as my day gets. And I've never talked about it or expressed it in that way, because people will use it as ammunition. Immediately, fans of Trainwrecks and other people on the internet that don't like me from other deranged fan bases, like the Overwatch League, they will be sending me messages saying, ha, you deserve to live like that for all the things you've said. And all the, you're a Nazi, I'm glad you feel that way. So, you never talk honestly, because people hold up the mirror and try and like be, guys, like, there's nothing someone can say on the internet that's going to make you feel more lousy than feeling like that, So, it is what it is, and like, I'll just talk honestly about it. But don't tell me these people are my fucking pals. Because they ain't. They would secretly love me to be in that state over and over again. They'd get content out of it. They'd have like the intervention stream. They'll have me sitting down with Dr. K on stream, like all the big streamers are doing, live psychoanalysis on Twitch. And that's what they would literally have me do until I either found Jesus or blew my fucking brains out. All for content, guys. All for the content. Don't tell me these people are my pals. I know who my fucking pals are. And that's that. So, anyway, won't linger on it. The only opinions I care about are the opinions of my community. You can't even win over other communities. You just, they will just believe whatever they're told by the person that they secretly worship, meanwhile simultaneously telling religious people they're crazy, and then they believe whole cloth what a fucking Twitch streamer says, and demand feet pics from them because they are the second coming in their mind. These people are perfectly fucking normal.